You are now tuning in to the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast, the #1 source for unfiltered truth in bodybuilding with your host, Elon Muscular. This podcast is sponsored by MarketRex, web design and marketing automation for online coaches. If you're an online coach that is operating out of your Instagram DMs, a Google form on your Linktree, or worse, a Gmail link in your bio, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Maybe you have a website, but it kind of sucks and it's not integrated into a greater marketing strategy. Think about all the clients who would be interested in working with you, but haven't quite crossed the line of contacting you because you have not made the process smooth enough for them. At MarketRex, we create high converting websites, landing pages, lead magnets, and email marketing flows to help online coaches get more clients on autopilot so that you can focus on serving your clients and doing what you love. Head over to marketrex.co to book a free consultation call to learn more about how we can help scale your coaching business. What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 23 of the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. I'm here with Benoit LaPierre. I'm a big fan of this guy. This guy is like one of the original, I don't know how to call him, like a wild boy of bodybuilding. He was posting back on the GH15 forum maybe like 10, 15 years ago, and really talking a lot about his personal experiences. He was very open about his life, his background, the things that he went through, and kind of achieved like a cult following. He's turned 5 people pro. So he's a great bodybuilding coach. But what I also like about him is that a lot of bodybuilding coaches, they hide behind this sort of guru persona where they don't want to be open with people and talk about themselves and their personal experiences. They try to seem cool. And Benoit doesn't really. So I like that about him. So welcome to the podcast, Benoit.
Thank you. Much honor. It was always this question of transparency, because I've always been kind of shy. So even though it looks virtually very all over the place and excessively theatrical, somehow I was a bit introvert, and I wanted to challenge my inner boundaries when it comes to the bodybuilding challenge, benefit, pro and con. And what was different from me is I wasn't under the spell of any company or reputation or income, or I had this complete freedom of doing whatever I want, a bit careless and unapologetic somehow. But at the same time, it was to inspire, let's say, the people that play with rebellion and bodybuilding and self-reflective question. And I knew there was lots of very wild, creative people in the bodybuilding industry. And I was getting a bit tired of the macho superhero. I'm strong, I'm amazing, my wife is beautiful, I have a Ferrari. For me, it was a bit superficial. And I say, let's use humor and a sense of craziness to extrapolate my quality of, let's say, the way I was back then, jungling between chaos and order. And I had to use the French language, like almost like a Franglish poetry, to express whatever that was coming in my mind. And of course, because I was using so much hormone back then, sometimes it was me, sometimes it was hormone, sometimes I was hyper, sometimes I was maybe even sad. So it was a bit unpredictable, but at the same time, it's because I knew I didn't have the pro card in me, genetically wise. I knew I could have been a mentor or inspire people because lots of them had that craziness in them, but they were not enough gutsy to extrapolate virtually with my real name, with my real, picture, image, video and stuff. And it came very strangely super popular, And at one point, I changed. I came more, let's say, a father, a doctorate. It slowly fades to something more tangible and serious. Obviously, with age, now I'm 47, so we're looking at 20 years of an history, and some people still follow me since then, and they're still there now, which is very intriguing. That's the bandwidth that I really like. It's like when I was posting on web like 15 years ago, sometimes 200,000 people were following it. That's scale right now, maybe it's 100 or 200, but who cares? I don't care. I follow my personal odyssey. It's not about being famous. It's not about forget who I am to please, and I'm really, really happy about that very, very tiny micro niche of acknowledgement to hormones, periodization, lifestyle, and bodybuilding, with a curiosity for development. So
yeah, and I found your approach very interesting, especially recently, as you managed to kind of synthesize the experiences that you've been in and express them in a way that nobody really talks about, how hormones, how bodybuilding, how the lifestyle behind the process affects how we think, how we feel, how we interact with the world, how we interact with others. Everyone, like you said, always tries to make it seem like this sort of glamorous situation, but the reality of bodybuilding is it's not always glamorous. Only a very small percentage of the time do we ever actually get the compliments, accolades, and the things that make us feel good for why we kind of got into doing this. So I guess I wanted to ask you, and just for anybody who doesn't know, like how I found out about Benoit and his fame, there were forums like 10, 15 years ago, and that's where people were popular. There was no YouTube. There was no people talking about steroids or bodybuilding on YouTube. This was before Boston Lloyd, before Tony Huge, before Ziz, before all those guys. I'm talking like 2005, 2008, right? And
even before that.
Yeah, and Benoit was one of the original guys posting on there, and he had a log talking about his experiences as he went through them with his lifestyle, his journey to try to become pro. He was open about his dosages and everything like that. So just for people who don't understand your background and where you come from. So I want to ask you, how did you get into bodybuilding, and how did you find the forums, and what inspired you to start this log? Because it's really something that has never been done before.
Well, I always try or dare to try to be at the extreme position of changing taboo and let's say a cultural or a community position or posture, not to be cocky and arrogant. It's like I will choose bodybuilding, and in the bodybuilding community, I will be the one that pushed the further, where there's a wild side and there's still wisdom into it. There's a good equilibrium. There's a good equilibrium between bodybuilding, business. I don't know why the video cut off, but a good ecosystem between a wild side and a wisdom side. And you have to be somewhat subversive and avant-garde. You have to push the boundaries a little bit further in the envelope of the community. What do I offer that is authentic? It's myself. It's not fake. It's true. People will believe it. I will succeed to even laugh at me, not in insulting matters, but maybe as a self-reflective clown and philosopher somehow, and how I can use this motivation, will, stamina to attract people of the industry. It's almost like you play a bit wild, but behind the wild card, there's a lot of depth of meaning and symbol. And once people cross over the judgment of what they see as the persona, they see, you know what, this guy, I need to know him. I know he has more to offer. So right? It's almost like it's anti-marketing. You offer, instead of offering appealing, you offer a challenge, and who grabs it? you evolve with them.
That makes perfect sense. It's like shock marketing, you know, you put
Yes.
something out that gets people's attention. And then once you have their attention, you can, you know, bring your message to them because they're already listening to you. They might have seen you because you posted something crazy, but then they get to know you better and realize, like you said, there is something behind the madness. There's some method behind the madness. So I want to ask you about those early party days. You know, you were a smart guy and you were partying a lot, you know, taking recreational drugs and bodybuilding at the same time. What did that look like? You know, what was your life like at the time? Were you happy? And are you glad that you went through that phase? And would you, you know, for a younger guy who is looking to get into a similar lifestyle or is in a similar lifestyle, would you recommend that sort of, you know, path to somebody?
Wow, that's a big question. First of all, every adult is responsible of his action, his embodiment, his decision. I personally find within the drug world a way to shock or interact with inhibition and a way to open up a sphere that were so abstract or so far of my reach that it opened me up to be a better version of myself. And I don't think personally I'd succeed that fast without drugs. I will eventually, in terms of genetics and curiosity and this you know meaningful calling for purpose to discover them, they would have come. But with drug, it was more of a fast track. Let's say Benoit before steroids and drug, very shy, very confident, but in a awkwardness. And then, you know, I meet a lady, I meet sexuality, I meet orgasm, I meet pleasure, I meet charisma, I meet eloquent way to bring a spell of fantasy and wonder upon women to, you know, bring them to my world. I'm a loyal person. My relationship were pretty stable, but as a bodybuilder, I did find that I was catered more for a materialistic type figure, a woman that's quiet, that's home, and I'm the wild card. And the woman bring me at the ground level of being. And there's this polarity which is nurturing somehow. And now I'm the provider and I'm the one that kind of lead the stability of the home. But back then it was me that was looking into my partner, the environment to be a bodybuilder and how that unpredictability, you know, of hormones. And I was lucky enough to have financial stability. You know, I was halfway bodybuilding and corporate at the same time. So I had this inner equilibrium. Maybe that's why I didn't get the pro card, because somehow work was had a lot of erotic attention to me, women also in bodybuilding too. So that was all my life. My girlfriend, my wife, barely any friends, sometimes on the forum, bodybuilding, training, sleeping, and work. And that was it. That was enough for me to grow as a person. Drugs was an answer of barrier, boundaries, children wound, conflict, trauma. And now I'm more open to be coach and mentor and have therapists. But back then, maybe I didn't know about it or I didn't care about it. But I find that the best therapeutical setting for me was drugs experimentation.
I've also kind of had that experience, you know, and it's not something that I've talked about a ton because this is a bodybuilding podcast and not like a, you know, partying recreational drugs podcast. But I had that experience too, taking LSD in college and MDMA and ketamine and all this different stuff that I really did feel like opened up my mind. And now we see that there's all these scientific studies coming out about MDMA and ketamine and mushrooms and LSD being used to cure depression, to cure OCD, PTSD, and all this different stuff. So can you talk about a little bit about your journey with partying and recreational drugs? Which ones did you like to use, and how do you really think that they opened your mind and provided that like therapy for you during that time?
What happened is, because I tend to be a dreamer, I tend to have someone with lots of creativity and imagination. As weird as it sounds, with drugs, I connect to the ultimate sense of reality, because it was actually my mind was more adventurous than drug per se. So it was almost like an opposition. And I could connect and ground at the contemplative level to find the beauty, the aesthetic, and the attraction of reality. Because somehow, when I was young on drugs, I didn't care. I was careless of the system, the economy, the government, the world. I was in the whateverness. I'm gonna surrender to God, but not the system. So I was a radical rebel. I didn't feel. I could have technically break everything, but that was not a great energy. I say, let's extrapolate drugs to almost touch the ultimate reality. It was a philosophical landscape, because I knew I was so catatonic and disconnect from the reality that drugs allow me to open heartfelt sense of who I was in my own heart and embodiment, meaningfully, as an agent of play, of candor, of protection, of allowance to openness. I know I'm going to a very abstract level, but it's almost like if I was a bit too crazy with drugs, I acknowledge the sense of I could not control anymore. And the fact that I could not control remind me that you don't control reality. Because it's almost like I had a self-manipulative way to give more beauty and aesthetic that was there. I tend to, let's say you date a girl that's very aggressive and she's always fighting with everyone. But me, I always see her in love. So with drugs, I will see how angry she is. And once I go back on drug, I was like, oh my God, she's very angry. She doesn't embody love. So, it's very deep polarity and self-questioning. So I was dancing as a ritual of screaming and energy and just let it go. But it was to link into my awareness of nonverbal cue to dissolve those trauma in me that I could not understand.
I think that,
So ecstasy, G, speed, no crack or heroin, no hard drugs. I'm scared of it. No cocaine, too addictive. Not crystal, too addictive either. The medium bandwidth, and drugs that works well with sex, because I did find that within intimacy and orgasm and like that energetic connection, it allows, again, openness, right?
So it sounds like you were kind of seeking that, connection with people, and you had trouble connecting with people in a certain way, and you felt because
Absolutely.
You were shy and maybe insecure, and these drugs and partying and making yourself into bigger than yourself by using steroids and all this different stuff helped you feel like who Benoit thought that he should be during that time, kind of thing. And, put yourself out there to meet women, which was a major, like a reflection of, you were using them to reflect how you felt about yourself. If you could connect with them, please them and stuff like that, then you felt better about yourself. Is that?
That's exactly it. You're right on point. The only difference is once I done it with drugs, then I could do it without right away. It's almost like you learn, you do it. It's like flip, 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 flip. So the party scene was about maybe 2.5 years, every 2-3 weeks. And that was enough party to know that I was not invincible anymore, that I knew that if I keep going wasn't fun anymore, it was more like side effect and stuff. So it is a very short, intense moment. And I think I choose it at the right way in my life. I was between maybe 26, 31. So you're still very mature, not fully mature, but mature. And it made me become slowly a man after. I became a man, let's say 42, 43. So those are steps.
So it's pretty late, usually people go through that phase, like, 19 to like 20, 3, 24.
The new kids now, because of the internet, the openness, the social, yeah. It's like us, we discover sexuality, we're 20, 21. Now they discover sexuality way much younger. And what I knew at 21, bro, nowadays I would be so dumb. We didn't have internet. There was barely no magazine for interpersonal dynamic and stuff, right? So it's a bit of cultural emptiness. Now you have access to everything. I don't know if it's better. I don't know if that access to every information, it's a good thing. I don't know. It seems sometimes it's too quick.
Where do you think that, you at that age, if you were that age now, you think that you would be like on Instagram? Or trying to, how do you think that you would be reflecting that same energy nowadays if you didn't have, the forums and the nightclubs and all that stuff like in the early 2000s? What do you think that, that age Benoit would be doing in 2021?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. I really have, I cannot answer. You know why? Because I find that we're changing what freedom means. And back then, I think, naively speaking, we kind of knew what freedom was. And now it's really kind of a polarizing effect of where we know where you're at, we know what you do, we know everything about you. It's a bit of a strange land, but I'm so grateful that I live at the right time. I don't know, maybe I'm pessimistic about the future, but is now drugs, cost them are very severe. They use precursor, postcursor, they change the CAS number, the structure. The drug's not as pure, often very toxic, not very hard to clear for the body. So I don't know. It was a magical time of freedom. And now maybe technology is better, maybe the social awareness is more open, maybe there's a better transdisciplinary approach or intersection of different social architecture, but I'm grateful of where I live, and today would be very hard to do what we did. Maybe not with steroids. Steroids got way more simple with time. Now, any Canadian can order steroids almost like it was a catalog. You can buy your 16-week cycle with any compound you want, almost right away on the internet or at gym. That's how much easy it got.
Yeah, I think accessibility to things and people, is obviously much higher than it was back then.
People want master run. Oh, I want to do master run. They want it in the next 5 minutes. They're not gonna wait 3 days. Us, we had to wait like freaking forever.
Oh, that brings me to an interesting question. Since you're from that era, do you think that the steroid, a lot of guys say, oh, back then the steroids were of higher quality, milligram per milligram. We would take 2 cc's of testosterone, and it would be so much stronger than, guys nowadays have 2 cc's testosterone. What do you think about that? Does that even make any sense? Like, assuming that the molecule is the same, like, do you think that the drug quality was higher, back in your day?
I don't think so. I think everything is better today when it's regarding to drugs, because back then it was pharmaceutical, and pharmaceutical often are high in BA, BB solvents. So it's not made for frequent injection. It's more made for general public. And in the pharmaceutical, you don't have tren, you don't have masteron, you don't have primobolan. So most of the specific compound to compete and contest. And the quality of GH is about the same. And even nowadays, the difference between generic and GH, it's pretty similar. Sometimes so much that if you have a fake pharma that is generic inside, no one will know it is. So no, the quality is even, not say better, but either the same or better option on PCT, on solvent, on binder, on technology of production. You have more option, obviously, and everything evolves so quickly, especially knowledge, because back then, beside a few books, print, sent by mail, there's not much. There's not much knowledge. It was you were a pure gym rat laboratory. That's why forum was there. Forum's like, I'm doing this. That's what it does. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. But why I did it because I wanted to have attention. Is because no one seems to extrapolate the truth when it was not a professional genetics. Who's the normal people? Who's the next guy that might just be in sixth place at a national show? Where is he? What he's taking? What's it? And that's why I've done it.
Yeah. What is up, guys? And thank you so much for listening to the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. If you're interested in transforming your body and getting shredded this summer, I put together an awesome free 30-minute mini course called Shredded Secrets of Fitness Influencers that you can grab at elonmuscular.com or visit the link in the description of this podcast. This is real, raw, true information that you won't find anywhere else. Head over to elonmuscular.com/shredded to check it out right now. And I think that, one good thing about nowadays is that everyone has a voice now. And I think that, obviously that's going to have some negative stuff. Anybody can say anything. Anybody can believe anything that anybody says, and anyone can be an influencer. But I think in another sense, it's a lot easier for the, sixth place national guy, or for me, just a random guy who thinks about these things, who maybe takes a more backseat approach, a more philosophical approach, can spread their opinion and help people look at things in a different way. It doesn't have to only be a pro bodybuilder who tells you what they want you to hear, because those people will have a very specific message that will always be the same because they're controlled by coaches, sponsors, IFBB. They have alternative interests. And nowadays, people with, no ulterior motive other than just simply curiosity and, love for what we're doing can talk more openly about it. So I think that that is more of a positive thing that we have now,
There's some value of conservative in bodybuilding, on the right center spectrum. But at the same time, there's some people that don't care about the system and they don't really follow the political sheen. But it will be, I don't know if it's the best school is to work with a professional. Of course, you'll learn, but you'll learn that you cannot do what they do because they're hyper responder, because they have certain specific genetic outcome that's out of your reach, which is fine. So I don't know. I mean, in bodybuilding, you have to extrapolate that everyone is different, and you have to behind the influencer to personalize at best with time and knowledge and experience very specifically to the person.
So, you were a national level competitor and, did pretty well, won some local shows and stuff like that. What were your favorite, steroids? What did that process look like? What cycles did you like? Where did GH play into that? I saw you talking about like very high doses of GH that you were experimenting with. So if you can just speak a little bit on what worked for you in your bodybuilding journey, just on a personal level, and how you made your best progress.
The best progress was somewhat of a logical, intense moderation. It was more a question of time. And for me, it takes time, lots of time. I mean, growth hormone, 3-5 years. Was 6 unit better than 18? I still don't know today, even I've done it myself, on and on and on. It's very hard to quantify. I don't know if more is better. I'm still repairing some karma of steroids abuse, with blood pressure and this and that. So you have to be careful. You always pay for what you do. You have to be responsible for that. But even though I abused for 4 or 5 years in 18 years of bodybuilding and maybe 9 years of using, I still properly in my health recover, both cognitively, sexually, etc., etc. But will I live to 70 years old? I really doubt so. I would say my favorite cycle was mostly quick acting, test pro, NPP, primo, every day with Humalog, Lentus, Humulin N post workout with GH, nonstop, long time, 20, 26, 30 weeks. I was more low carb, moderate fat, high protein for me. Sometimes the digestion say no, so I had to really put lots of money on stomach health, with all the compound that needs for it. But NPP, Primobolan, Test Pro, GH, insulin, Humulin N post workout, Lentus morning, Humalog 1 time, 2 times maybe, GH, I would say like 2 units wake up for cortisol, 2 units pre-workout for cardiac output, 2 units post-workout for recovery, repair with a little bit of fasting, and 2 units before sleeping. That's probably the best dosage I did, around 10 units. Now doing that nowadays costs way less, much less. I mean, you're talking about from 1,000 to maybe less than 200.
If you're using generics, right?
I was using pharma, but nowadays generic is as good as pharma. There's no difference if you get the right.
I've tried generics, and I've tried pharma. Only this last year have I dabbled with GH. I definitely did notice a difference with the pharma. I felt like I had more side effects with the generics.
If you didn't feel enough on your generic, is maybe the vial was half of what it mentioned. Let's say it said 10 units, it was 4 units.
What I noticed with the generics that I didn't like is I noticed more negative side effects, more swelling in the hands, feet, more like the hands and feet falling asleep faster, or if I hold up my phone, my hand would go numb faster and have this sort of feeling. Whereas with the pharmaceutical, even at the same dosages, I just felt like a more clean, I still had like the tingling in the hands and stuff, but I felt like maybe in my generics, there was some kind of thing that they added to it to give me more of those side effects, because it felt slightly different. You know what I mean? I still got the fullness in the muscles. I still got hungry. I still got some effects, but I also felt like I had more water retention on the generics. Maybe my generics were bad. That's
that doesn't sound like a great generic, brother. But the thing is, when you have ulnar compression, often comes from the jaw, often comes from shoulder mobility. So if you gain size and weight size and water size very fast, then you have to work as much as flexibility, mobility, fascial coordination as you get a long built muscle. So that's a great sign that you need shoulder rehabilitation and focus.
Yeah, that could definitely be it. I mean, I don't know. I just felt like when my pharma was pharma, real Serostim from the US. So
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah.
different story than, I don't know. But maybe there's still definitely
But
more
they've
work.
been fake a lot lately. I don't know if you buy a Serrano nowadays, it would be a real one.
Well, they have like, the prescription on it. I don't want to go too much into that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a public podcast.
But they take prescription too, huh? They fit prescription too. They
Yeah.
print a prescription, they rip it, and they say, "Oh, that's a real kit."
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, you don't know at the end of the day. You have to, in this
You'll
game,
never know. You have to try to know. That's the sad part of growth hormone.
yeah, it's a source game, and it's a financial, game too, a lot. So could you talk a little bit about the, financial side of bodybuilding? How important do you think it is to have a budget in order to be successful and get a pro card, and how much money do you think that it would take nowadays for somebody looking to get good results that they would have to invest like per month?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say, optimally 75,000 a year, 25,000 for a girlfriend, couple home, 25,000 for you, and 25,000 for bodybuilding, something like that. That's about 200 to 20 a day. So if you charge 108, well, you need two coaching a day, or two gym session a day, or two mentoring session a day, or it's business too. And the thing is, you don't need to know a million people to make $1 million, right? Goes fast, right?
You're talking in the coaching realm.
And the coaching round, because the thing is, if you want to be a bodybuilder, I think you have to kind of live not 24/7 in it, but kind of swim in the world. So you have to coach people, mentor people, people learn them to pose, to eat, and the fact that you're processing this mentoring, you're learning also becomes natural mechanism, becomes embodiment. You can be, as a coach, an image of inspirational too in your action and embodiment. And I usually coach both very organized people and very wild card, like who I was. And because I was a wild card, I know how to not judge them, and nothing really impressed me, because you know what, I've done all the craziness. So good luck doing more crazy than me. Please don't do that. But if you do, that's okay. I'll be here, opening heart, listening your journey of escapade of discovery. But at the same time, I don't think nowadays you could do bodybuilding unless the money end up in your hand very easily by who knows what. It's corporate bodybuilding. They go along, and you cannot be overly corporate, because that will affect. So it's need that perfect equilibrium. And then you need the genetics and the willingness to play the sport. Not a wild card, not completely irresponsible, but the last 4 weeks of any contest, it's not normal to be 5% body fat, and it's not a normal reality to live at 5% body fat. So you need lots of preparedness to be able to handle that last step ritual.
So you talked about bodybuilding as a 10-year journey, right?
Yeah.
So, something that, you should set your intention at some point. I'm going all in on this, and for the next 10 years, this will be my life. And then after that point, you need to shut it down, because if you keep going past that point, it will have more negative side effects down the line, and you will cause yourself to have an early death, which we see guys constantly, obviously going down that path. We all know, how these things end up affecting you down the line. So how did you arrive at that number of 10 years? What do you think the best age range is for that? And how do you, mentally prepare yourself to start that, 10-year path?
Yeah. Well, I still believe those statements because we see how many people die in your industry now. It's not rare. Powerlifting, power building, bodybuilding. No one is immortal and no one is invincible. And sometimes you have inner misery that's need to be understood. And I find that 10 years is a good span for you to be able to recover for almost everyone. Some people can handle a lot of abuse for a longer time, but 10 years is a pretty good rational of. And I find the best thing would be 23, 33, because often at 40, you want kids, you want a career, you want something else than bodybuilding. Because the thing is, as fun as it is to be a bodybuilder, it's very rare that a bodybuilding will give you an entire life of security for your children. And it's like not many people have a great life from bodybuilding. They end up more spending toward it, but you have to win with it. So that's why you always approach bodybuilding with a corporate interest to, at least if you don't make money, to at least break even in your candidature. And the thing is, I know some people really value working and bodybuilding at the same time. I think that with bodybuilding, you can work, but it has to be very short time, partial time, lots of income very fast, very easy to handle, not that much complexity. So coaching, often it's a very free, not much responsibility than just being available and being there and be present. And unless you work at an architectural level of preparedness. But me, I don't really like that. I like more like, let's show you how to be autonomous and resilient without, yes, a plan because you have a competition date. But at the same time, there's some kind of, I'm free to be who I am. I'm free and I acknowledge that I'm a bodybuilding. That would be the narrow bandwidth of my discipline. Yes, I can fuck up. I cannot fuck up too many times that I messed up my contest. But at the same time, I have to be open to my own inner truth and failure and flaws. And no one is perfect. And you want to put that weight of reach to perfection into yourself. And between that bandwidth of rigidity, anxiety, and trust, you develop a sense of hope. And let's say I prefer magical thinking. I'm not very rational. I said, God will help me to succeed to my success because I'm in fate of my alignment and my mission is this. There's something bigger than me. I decide to have my own Olympia. I will carry the Olympia emblem. And even if I win, if I lose or I win, I don't really care. It's about the journey and what I extrapolate and learn from it. And if I can expand both my human qualities as doing bodybuilding and my corporate qualities in terms of leadership and income and assets and etc., not being fully materialistic too, considering humanistic value, just that perfect bandwidth equilibrium will bring you into the contest as an happy person, as a joyful person, as a smiling person, because you need to shine on stage. So I say 10 years bodybuilding, 3-4 years of mass, 3-4 years to compete. If you get a pro card, compete pro 2-3 years, get out.
In the, what I'm kind of trying to build and the message that I'm trying to put out and do for myself is that, nowadays, I've heard you talk about this, how, the competition, it's your Olympia. There's a hero's journey to get to that stage. And the experience of standing on the stage in and of itself has, some kind of, value that is greater than the parts all put together. You know what I mean? Like, you can ascribe your own value to this, you know, process, and displaying yourself on the stage is a experience that people should have.
I have a story. Sorry to cut you off. I have a story for you. So us, it was the national, right? And we have kids and friends that prep for the national for 20 weeks, you know, low carb, cardio, everything, and they at the end they changed the national to 4 location, and they try, and the city went against it. It was like this big conspiracy, like the show won't happen. The government did everything, police everything, health, name it all. So my athlete, 2-3 athletes, what we did, me and I'm gonna say his name. I don't think he's gonna mind. Charles Landry he said, even though there's no contest, you will do your routine in the hotel room, and this is the judge panel. And he was kind of pissed off because he didn't do his color, but still, you know, it's like, this is the time of your show, right? There's no judge. It's me and you. I know what you all did, and next time you'll come, you know exactly the recipe, because we were very happy about the result, the way it looks like. You can always push further, but he was near perfect or almost perfect. Let's go to my anticipation and expectation. And he did his routine like it was the stage, and that was the meaning. And the value is not to win. The value is I know exactly how to get in that condition. He knew exactly how to eat, how to do all the steps. It was layered, it was precise, it was planned, it was done. And next time he's gonna go a bit even further and nail it for sure. Because the thing is, I don't know if the first contest you actually have to go compete. You know, it's almost like you have to live the 6 to 4% body fat range. Make sure it's a logical handling of management and self-regulation in terms of your nervous system, and you're capable of thinking straight, clear, bright, not heavily confused, and you know exactly which macro make you not lose reality, because it's very easy to lose reality at the low body digit, low body composition range.
So yeah, that's a really interesting story and kind of plays into what I was talking about perfectly. So my case now is that maybe like the stage is not what it once was, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't have that, it's become commoditized so much more than it was back in the day when going on stage meant something, because there was no social media. There was no other way for you to display what you're doing. But nowadays, you don't need to actually ever step on a stage. And there's so many, you know, influencers and coaches and people who make money online and make a lot of money online that have never stepped on a stage or only done it once. And they don't have to make their living, even though it's through bodybuilding and through fitness, but they never actually have to go through that, you know, structure of the NPC, the IFBB. They can peak for their own photo shoot or their own event, their own marketing materials, their own whatever. So what I'm kind of the conclusion that I would like to step on a stage someday, sometime, somewhere. But I think that for me, it's better to just look at the whole thing much more abstractly in terms of how can I serve others? How can I coach others? How can I make the best physique that I can? And it's not for anyone else but my own journey in that path. And that's it. I'll still go on the diets. I'll still do the cycles. But I feel like when you go on stage, you put this extra stress on yourself, your nervous system, your psychology, your body. You have to take diuretics, trenbolone, and all these different things that will shorten your lifespan. So for me, it's not the competitions itself don't seem like they're really worth it on the grand scale of my life. What do you think about that kind of approach within like a modern context and just skipping the stage altogether?
Well, the thing is, there's bodybuilding and there's competitive bodybuilding. And even though they could look alike, competitive bodybuilding it's another level of seriousness. And the thing is, like I said, the first time you're ready, you don't need to step on stage. You do it once, and then you will know, is it my calling? Do I feel this challenge to be important to me? Is it essential? Is it something that I really how can I say that? It's so powerful that there's no way I cannot do it. It's almost like an accomplishment. Because the thing is, people that usually compete, they usually middle or upper middle class, they have a stable life, they have a stable income, they have a stable relationship. Now they're ready to add challenges to it. And yes, bodybuilding has some kind of little bit chaotic loop because it's very egoistic and stuff. And then if your wife is willing for it, if she supports you, and then she can realize that, oh my God, he's really in his bubble now, so I will leave in 6 weeks. And once the contest is done, it might be more intimate or closer to me, more affectionate. Everyone is different. But once you almost try the contest, if it's made for you or not. And that doesn't make you less of a person. But some people want the pro card. And a pro card is competitive bodybuilding as a classic or male physique or bodybuilder or wellness whatsoever. And it's easier a bit to get a pro card than a few years ago, but it's still far from easy. It's very, very, I had great athlete that had compete 3-4 times before get the pro card, and it was very difficult. And sometimes it's weird. Sometimes they look awesome, they lose, they don't look their best, but they get the pro card. So it's there's this subjective, transjective area that's very abstract. So sometimes you get the pro card, but you don't actually really deserve it. And sometimes you deserve it, but you don't have it. And sometimes you have it and you deserve it. So it's because of the objectivity of the judge and the humility of people. Sometimes it's hard to extrapolate what's the exact. But the thing is, if you get transparent about yourself, you will know. You will know. Like when I got the GH15 award, I was happy, but I didn't feel I deserved it because I felt that I was a bit still not dumb, but I was not at the genuine level of the bodybuilding. And what I did, I started studying like a maniac, education. At the one point, I got my PhD from overseas in tropical setting, and I said, now I deserve the GH15 Legion status. So even though it was a gift, I worked for it to be acknowledged that yes, I own it. Now it belongs to me, and it's true, right?
Yeah.
It's very unpredictable game, the world of competition.
And the world in general, you never know.
The world in general too, but once you compete, 4%, cognition, immune system, immunity, neurology, inflammation, psychological life, lifestyle, communication, work, money, stability, security. There's a lot to handle.
Yeah. And I like your approach on it because most people don't consider any of this stuff before they walk in and decide they're going to do a competition. They just decide, what cycle am I going to do? How is my diet going to look like?
But people that tend to be irresponsible like that rarely get a pro card. For me, sometimes there's athletes that didn't win the pro card, but they were so mature and so kind to themselves and so organized and give so much of their best beyond capacities. It's like you didn't win the pro card, but me, I give you one because I know you can. So, and then we extrapolate each other in a meeting. Do you have the health to do another one? And that's very important. It's okay to do a contest. It's okay to take 3-4 months to recover. And after 3-4 months, you sit down with your own health. And it's like, will I be able to do another one? Because it's never easy. It's never easy.
So also one other thing you've talked about in the past is that you would take long periods off you would take, 6 months off out of the year, some years. And in the 18 years that you were bodybuilding, 9 years you were off. So almost half the time. Knowing what you know now, would you recommend people fully come off, or that, people do, because nowadays TRT and cruising between them is much more popular. And there are some studies done that, this elevation and then reduction, having too high and then too low levels of testosterone and androgens constantly on that roller coaster is actually worse for your health down the line than, just staying on TRT. What do you think about coming off now? And would you come off?
I would still do the same thing. I would take long time off because it's an extreme sport. And when you've been, let's say, bodybuilding for 6-7 years, it's kind of, yes, it's not super healthy to lose 30-40 pounds to gain it back. But at the same time, the muscle memory is so quick that the fluctuation of weight is not as bad as never stopping, never take rest. Is the best metaphor is intense work, commitment, intense rest. Rest completely, physio, yoga, dancing. You change to a very low bandwidth activity for like 5-6 weeks, no hormones for 2-3 months. The thing is, nowadays you can do GH, you can take, I know it's not super popular, little bit of SARM, YK, and here and there. You can take a little bit of insulin to keep your size. You can bridge HMG, HCG, tryptorelin, kisspeptin, and help your HPTA function. You can use lots of natural supplement to nourish adaptogen, recovery, and stuff. And the thing is, if you get at the point that you're natural and big, you have a pro. This is the first time I do it. I say that on the internet, but it's true. If you want to remember something you bring when someone listen to that podcast, is if you want to be a pro bodybuilder, you need the look or the size or the weight of a pro bodybuilder as almost natural. And if you do it, because yes, you weren't natural for a long time, well, when the muscle memory in the contest come, you'll have the right X frame for it.
So you're saying if you really appreciate you tuning into this episode of the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast, I wanted to take this chance to tell you about my one-on-one coaching program, Physique Mastery Coaching. If you ever wanted to work with me directly, this is the best way to do it. We have coaching plans for all income levels starting from $99 a month, as well as one-off calls where I create a lesson plan custom tailored to your unique situation. We talk a lot about hardcore performance-enhancing drugs on this podcast, as well as advanced diet and training principles. Don't waste your precious time, energy, or health learning how to implement all this on your own. Get in touch with me and I will guide you on a straight path to your physique goals. Check out elonmuscular.com to book a free physique mastery consultation call with me. If you don't have good genetics, you can tell how good your genetics are by how well you keep the weight after you come off everything for a while. If you don't have good genetics, you're going to start dropping a lot of the weight fast. And if you do, you will look, obviously softer, not have everything that you had, but you will, retain at least the weight if you keep eating, right?
Yes and no. Yes, but you have to consider that experience and the amount of cycle and the years. More years it goes, easier it is to keep. So it would be I know that some young kids, they come like freak and then they get the pro card and they kind of fade after quickly. Sometimes too quick is not good. It's almost like a 10 years that there's this it would, for those that have the pro card calling, it will feel almost easy for them. That's the reality.
So at what point did you realize that, the pro card was not something that you were going to be able to achieve and decide that it's time to, go that way now? How long did it take?
I realized I would never be a pro ever from the start because I started way too old. I started doing cycle. I was don't know, 28, 29, 30. And I was not using much. I started using more like maybe 32 to 36, 37. If it was 35 plus, like the North Americans for the national, I would have done very good. But the fact that I could not cross custom anymore, and here master was 40 plus, I was in my peak 36, 37, 38 against people at 25. It's not the same. It's not the same structure. And I had more of a classic figure. I was maybe lack arm, but if I would put more arm size that's on my genetics, I would have done very well in classic. Classic didn't exist. It was all about size. I had more of a, I had the quad whip and the sweep of the back. I had this. I was missing arms though for classic, but I had this natural. I was on stage. I had like 20-inch waist at 224. That's a very small waist.
Yeah.
My waist was like no waist.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. Yeah, you look good. I mean, in your best shape, you always you look good. And I mean, definitely not. I wouldn't say that you were pushing the pro card. Maybe today in classic, yes, definitely. But genetics, it's a thing. We all have different ones. I don't have the genetics, and I think that now the more famous that bodybuilding gets, the better genetics come out. The more people, the more money that's in it. The more of the genetic specimens that we start to see. Maybe although in open, I feel like not a lot of people are going that way anymore. And there's a lot of different ways to do it now, but the genetics in classic and in, men's physique even it's hard to compete with those guys. I mean, maybe turning pro is not as hard as it was, but to compete at the highest level, it's just as hard as it always was, for sure. So,
but you see, like you see in Canada, let's say we have a show. Let's say there's 75 athletes in men. You will get 20, 25 male physique, 20-25 classic, 20-25 bodybuilder, but all over 40. All the kids are male physique class. You have one or two freaks all the time that stands out, and like I look like a pro look, each show or something, but not more than that. The open bodybuilding is another level of category.
So being from the era where only open existed, what do you think about these new categories? Are you excited about
it? I love it. It's awesome and it's amazing. I really maybe the old timer like me don't like it. I love it. It brings a lot of people. It's male physique. It's almost like a religion. They pose all the time. They live it. They live the sport. They're very passionate. And it's a very different, me, I'm more used to classic open bodybuilding and let's say heavy, super heavy sheen. But, for me to coach a male physique, I'm not exactly sure because it's a very specific world. And I don't feel super confident with those, they have their own little bubble world and it's pretty cool to witness. I witnessed like a fan. I don't like who the judge choose as the Olympia and the pro show. Sometimes my winner, I find that male physique has more of a beach body, and I find that classic, I want a classic that look classic. I want a classic that looks like a bodybuilder. And if we go open, we go full open. I will still do a overall open. I would have liked to see Flex Lewis against what's his name? Sean Roden, see the comparison of the 212 and open because I think Flex Lewis would have win. Yeah, I love it, man. It's fun, especially wellness. I like hardcore bikini, very cool class. Love it. Ripped bikini is beautiful, girls. I love it.
Do you work with any females?
I work with the champion in CrossFit. I work with a figure girl that she does the Jay Cutler show in 5-6 weeks figure, and then she does the North American. I work with corporate women and women in the military.
So when you're coaching people, how much of your coaching involves, like this sort of esoteric, like, what's the right word, metaphysical, like, trying to set their purpose and their intention and motivating them and stuff like that? Because I talk to a lot of different coaches on the podcast, and some coaches say, I only guide people on the, scientific and biological basis. And then some coaches say that you have to combine that with, a social, psychological, type of coaching. What would you say that your coaching looks like in terms of putting it all together with, and how much time do you say that you spend like with the average athlete? Because you seem like someone who would be more involved with their lives.
Yeah. Well, it's a case by case kind of thing, but I would say you meet at the technical level, let's say 16 weeks out. So proposition on nutrition, neurology, coordination, periodization, blah, 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 blah. And you extrapolate goals and ambition. And that's a very apply format. It's a very rational perspective. And then at 12 weeks, you delve into intimacy, relationship, money, branding, mentoring, all that dimension. You go a bit deeper. And then around 8 weeks, 6 weeks out, then you slowly extrapolate some spiritual components, curiosity, especially when you feel there's limiting belief or repression, or at the same time, I'm not a psychologist, I'm more of a somatic, I'm more into the heartfelt. So proposition will be more like dreamlike, more proposition-like. What I mean by that is I want them to feel somewhat observed while they compete. And I want them to feel like there's a team behind us, symbolically speaking, as a sign of support. And at the same time, is we expect you to be this look at this time, but it's not made over pressure. It's not made over disrespect. So you need to be, there's no authority. I will give you as much as I trust for you to find your own empowerment. So that would be the first layer of a spiritual component. This is not my journey. I barely know nothing. I'm not dumb, but I have life experience. But at the same time, how I can nest question and curiosity in your intimate self to denaturalize complexity for you to find your own empowerment. And that way we can play a key role on this is exactly what I want. And when I hear that, I ask them, are you ready? Do you want it? How are you going to do it? Tell me how, why, this, how. The how and why, it's not me. It's me asking them to acknowledge what they already know. And we use this tool as an empowerment of their ambition.
That's powerful stuff. Yeah.
Yes, because in some ways, even if someone claims you with the best knowledge on earth, if it doesn't come from you, how much is anchor? So you care about anchoring. So you talk. Then they talk, and then you say, how? They say, oh, yes, like that. Oh, yeah, tell me how you're going to do this. Are you ready? Do you deserve it? Are you worthy of it? Blah, 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 blah. Boom. Right? Drop the bomb. It's like one bomb a session. One is gym, one is nutrition, one is little openness, and as the person get leaner and a bit more vulnerable, that's where you extrapolate the inner empowerment. Because at the end of the last 4 weeks, if there is not willpower and magical thinking in the stamina spectrum, compartmentalization, it might not happen because it's beyond the physical. officially at the end.
Yeah, I think that I will definitely re-listen to that after the podcast, because that's good stuff, man. That's why I want to have you on here, because your perspective is different and I really appreciate that. And that's, I can tell that a lot of work has gone into creating this process and view of the
Well,
world.
the thing is, it has to be, the way I work, it has to come from the guts. It has to be visceral. It has to, this person has so much passion for me competing. I have no choice to follow, man. It's like, wow, I have this, so there's acknowledgement, there's respect, there's mutuality. It's teamwork. It's dynamic, authentic self as forming of a collective on a mission, which is very serious because it's regarding your own health. And at the same time, you want to be in self-destruction. And if you're in self-destruction, well, we stop. I did hurt myself in the past. I know what it is. I don't feel like coaching people doing that. I was like, hey, right? So.
What do you think are the ways that people hurt themselves in this sport? Like, obviously, how do they hurt themselves biologically, and how might they hurt themselves psychologically, socially, and spiritually? What are some traps to watch out for?
Is the hunt is, I feel I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. Those limiting belief, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I need to be more, because the bodybuilding, it's always more, right? More dry, more big, more round, more clear, more vascular, more. And the thing is, you end up being a bodybuilder for 10 years and you have a satisfaction of 8 seconds, and there's only 3 pictures that you like, that, okay, that was perfect. That was bodybuilding, right? It's like Phil Heath, he was like God perfect, maybe, I don't know, even though I find he has a very wonderful physique. Maybe he peaked like 5 hours in his entire career. But you don't need to be only happy or content or feel you were enough in that 5 hours. It's about the journey. And there's a bit of inner confidence, inner trust, inner humility. You don't want to be cocky too about it. It's a bit arrogant to say, I'm the best. I don't know. For me, I don't like it. Yeah.
So when you say that you probably won't live to see 70, why do you think that is? What did you really do that hurt your health, if you feel open talking about that? And how could you advise other people maybe to, like, do you think that just because someone engages in the bodybuilding process that they are shortening their lifespan inevitably, or is there a way to, not shorten your lifespan?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was over 250 pound at 10% body fat over like almost 12 years. I went to 285. I compete on stage several times around 224, 225. So lots of weight, water fluctuation, lots of, like I said, I had a time of loops with drugs, loops of extreme excess. So I'll say because of blood pressure, because of clan, because of drugs, because of working out on stimulant, and even take stimulant when I wake up or just for fun like that. All of this will make me myself die young. But at the same time, you have to understand that I'm not appealed to live at 70. I don't have that in me. Maybe my kid would be sad to hear it, but it's almost like I want this young at heart, not 100 miles per hour kind of life. Now I'm learning moderation. I'm 47, near 50. So I want to fade into moderation, but at the same time, what I'm going to do at 70, I have no clue. Unless I live in Bali in the forest and I become like a priest or something, or there's another calling, then maybe, it could expand. But I don't see myself doing something else than be a coach for bodybuilder. And eventually I'll be at age that I'll be like the grandfather, the grandpapa of the bodybuilding. And I'm okay with that. I'm already ready for it. So it's gonna come eventually. You know, instead of being the father figure, I'll be the grandpapa figure of bodybuilding. And it's a division. Some kids, they like someone that has a lot of experience, and some say, oh, you know, you're 60-year-old. I want to be with the guy that's weighed 200 pounds because him knows how to do it, and which is fine. You know, some people are influenced by a professional, and some people are more inspired by this person represent an embodiment of a legend within our community. I trust him. He's completely honest and come on, I'll say that, faithful to his commitment in his mission of being a coach for bodybuilder. And at the same time, my coaching is not forever. My coaching is for you to extrapolate autonomy, resilience, get your pro card, and then you experiment your own life, you know. I keep Toko and Robin because we're close friends, but I'm not their coach per se anymore. We're more like, I'm your friend and I'm your coach too. Sometimes you speak to your friend, sometimes you speak to your coach, or sometimes you speak at the same time, at the same person at the same time. But I feel that by the time they have their pro card, we know each other for so long that it's friendship. Right?
It's a bit of a friendship, and then also like a mentorship. You're older,
yes.
You've been through it, and
yeah.
Cool.
You need a mentor once you're 7% body fat. Everyone need a mentor all the time, and sometimes several if you can, you know, afford it. But yeah, because you have relationship coach, money coach, marketing coach. You know, there's so many different type of coach, and they all have, you know, a very important sphere too. It's hard to collide everything. I try in my own way to, let's say, I'll be an holistic coach and try to have as much string and roots in any intersection of thinking, ideology, methodology. But, you know, maybe I can't. Well, at least I dare.
One of the last things I want to ask you about that I'm very interested in is how, you know, the bodybuilding journey and hormones affect the brain, because you talk a lot about how, you know, sometimes when you were in bodybuilding, it was you, then other times it was the hormones. And, you know, if you talk to 20 bodybuilders, 19 of them will tell you, I don't feel any different, you know, when I'm taking a gram of testosterone, 2 grams, I feel the same. Everything's the same. I'm the same guy. I didn't change. I go into the bodybuilding contest. Maybe I'm a little hungry, but they never say, you know, it was the, you know, drugs basically influencing their actions. They don't want to take responsibility for that because people want to, you know, they want to minimize their drug use. They don't want to feel like, you know, they are under the influence, right? So
it's the right way. It's the right way to do it, but at the same time, it's almost too linear and it lacks of emotion. And the thing is, you go on stage and you represent your skin, your persona, your character, your authenticity, and your posing and stuff. So if you're a baseline without color and you don't feel anything, well, you could be very boring on stage. It's like, you know, and some people really cater attention. They go on stage, it's almost like a methodic experience because they have a very external polarity on the aura and presence and reflective energy, and the judge is like, wow, you know, like Zane Watson when he posed, you know, it's so well put. I mean, you know, like, wow, you know, it's like when what's her name, the figure girl, Nicole Wilkins, is that her name?
Nicole Wilkins,
yeah, she comes, she poses, it's flawless, you know, she comes, pick, wow, you know, like, here goes Miss Olympia. It's obvious. It's so obvious. You bring anyone, you bring your mom, your grandma, you would say, who's the Miss Figure Olympia? She would say, oh, it's her. They know it because they shine. So you need some kind of overlap of emotion in your drugs involvement. You need some kind of sensibility. And if you don't feel anything, it's fine, because in some ways you didn't put inflammatory marker to bring side effect and you handle it well. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be in the dissociative state that whatever my body feels, me, I'm okay. You know, it's not like a complete denial of whatever that goes inside me. You know, it has to be true. It's like, yes, I feel great. I feel awesome. I'm in a state of trends that, yes, it's bodybuilding, and yes, I have adrenaline and hormones, but I feel in a very mature control. But will someone from 5 weeks out to 4% with gluten will be like that? It's hard to believe. I mean, come on, bro. So bullshit, love, man. You know, there's a way you're gonna forget your mind or your keys or where you're at, or something's gonna happen. It's impossible. It's impossible because you live in such a deplete state for such a long time.
Yeah, and it's really hard to train like in such a depleted state, and then after you train, you just want to sleep for like 3-4 hours, and then you get
At
up.
the end, you stay home. At the end, you stay home. You go train, you lay down, and that's okay. You watch the hours and the clock. It's not has to be completely depressive, but very no activity at home. That's okay. Or you go gym, and that'll be it.
So nowadays, do you train and do you take testosterone replacement therapy, or are you just natural?
I do a bit of ART now. I didn't do any testosterone for 5 years and growth hormone. I started not long ago. I started about 5 weeks ago. I don't know when I'm gonna stop. We see the blood test analysis and stuff, but I do 2 units, 2.5 units before sleeping, and 150 milligram of test. I think it's enough. Maybe I'll do a bit more, but I'm very prone to blood pressure, so I have to be careful. And I train Olympic powerlifting. I still cannot really snatch well yet. I cannot really fully succeed, but bench, squat, deadlift, it's a very fun sport. I love it. I love it. The contractile, the technique, you cannot injure yourself. There's no swinging. There's no high rep per se. It's all intra-abdominal pressure. So it's a beautiful way to move weight, very safe, very brain stimulating. And I train 3-4 times a week with a trainer, of my Olympic weightlifting trainer, because it's a different world. And the way your VMO, your ankle, you have to think on the entire body technique. Everything matters, the grip, the angle. It's very, very technique, and it's fun to rediscover another facet of the sport in a different angle. And I love it.
That's good that, you still have that young mindset, still trying to learn new things and get new experiences and stuff like that. I hope that went out.
Have to. That's what keeps you young, bro. So for you said the lifespan. For the lifespan, I will look into GDF11. It's not fully out yet. I think you maybe have in US now. There's a new peptide that will be very promising. Not exactly for lifespan, but more for circadian homeostasis and very specific, very healthy repair mechanism that is not like blah, blah, blah. And it's actually really working for real. And that would be a peptide that would transform the industry.
Yeah, and you've talked about kisspeptin a lot as well for PCT.
Because it's easy, it's not neurotoxic. Unless your FSH is completely scrapped, then you need HMG, which is kind of expensive, sadly. But kisspeptin is very good on metabolism, cognition, reproduction, desire, libido at the cognitive level, and social regulation too, somehow, to approach others or desire others. It's a very safe HPTA help post-cycle recovery without any side effect.
And what do you think about GH15's recommendations? Because you were on that forum a lot, and he talks about trenbolone and stuff like that. Is that something that you tend to stay away from? Where would you use trenbolone? Only up to a contest?
Nowadays, I will put trend 4 weeks out, maybe below 120. That's it. I trust more and more Mastron and Intake because of Roderick Chavez. I find it a bit convincing. I find that people are, maybe because of Westerner, the rent, the money, there's more pressure, so Mastron could lead to aggression. Some people don't believe in Mastron and aggressions, like Victor Black and stuff. For me, I find that I prefer Primobolan. It's easier a bit on the body. But to answer your question, is GH15 was completely insane? And yes, he was right, but at the same time, a regimen like GH15, the real regimen, is about 50 to 70,000 a year, and not many people can afford it. So who did it? Who done it? Not many people. Who's gonna spend 60, 70,000? Maybe people in Kuwait, rich, whatever. But in Canada and US, very low bandwidth. And like I said, genetics made you save money too. So yeah, I don't know. I will not follow GH15 advice if you care for health. If you care for result and you don't give a shit about, I'm willing to die like Branch Warren, to look like Branch Warren, ACA myself 15 years ago, then do it. And eventually it will snap, no one's invincible once again.
Okay. All right, Benoit.
That's been an honor. Thank you, man.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on. I got to ask you all the questions that I wanted to ask you.
What did you learn? What are you bringing home after our conversation?
I really like I just really like your approach of the neurobiosocial model, and I really like putting a meaning behind what we're doing here, and being able to take kind of like a bird's eye view on my life, who I am, looking at myself a little bit in the third person, and what am I trying to accomplish here? What kind of, hero do I want to be on this journey of bodybuilding and inspiring others and stuff like that? So I really just wanted to pick your brain about, how you think about that and how you inspire others to be able to think about that, because listening to some of your podcasts got me thinking more on that level, whereas we listen to a lot of bodybuilding podcasts and it's very much X's and O's all the time, just talking about diet, low carb, high carb, how much protein to eat, 6 ounces, 8 ounces, how much steroids to take, 1 gram, 3 grams or what, and that's all we think about. But, life is a lot more complicated than that. And when you started to talk about how, when you coach people, you look at their finances, you look at their lifestyle, you look at how they're marketing themselves, you look at the long-term, their long-term stay in the industry and where they're going to be in 10 years, 20 years, and how to come out of, competitive bodybuilding and stuff like that. Although I'm not a competitor, I find it all very interesting. And, the way you talk about it kind of reminds me, do you know Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. It's right here, bro, right here, the new book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he talks a lot about, that kind of stuff, metaphysical sort of view of life and stuff like that. And I find that there's not a lot of philosophy in bodybuilding. There's not a lot of intellectuals, you know what I mean? And I have a degree in philosophy. It's something that I minored in philosophy. And
I like Bergson, I like Zizek, I like Derrida.
Yeah.
I'm the modern post-structuralist philosopher. Very French. I'm very French in my modern philosophy. But neurobiosocial, neurology, because yes, we're physical, but we're brain-centric physical, which means the brain is muscle. Muscle is slave of central nervous system, which is controlled by the brain. So brain is a lot of information by the eye, by the jaw, by the fascia, by the foot, by the vestibular system. So it's a brain-centric that look at inflammation. Bio meaning alternative medicine. So a bit of deanominic with color in food, with spice in food, with enzyme to absorb food and nutrient. Datis Kazarian mix functional neurology and functional medicine. Very smart guy. I advise anyone to look all his Q&A. It's crazy. It's smart. It's unbelievable. The guy is such an applied clinician that gives everything he knows free on Facebook. So it's the best school you can get. And social mean interpersonal neurobiology. So Tatskin, Darcio, Narvaez that look at the dimension, the humanistic dimension of somatic sociability in the axis of intimacy, proximity, trust, ness of safety. Because if you allow vulnerability to happen at the chemistry level, the person will keep open up. And eventually people are like, oh my God, I never told all of this to someone. And it's not the manipulation to undisclose their secret to use them against them. It's more like, I will be so open to you that you would give me the same thing. You might be surprised by the outcome.
Do you have I see that you post on Instagram. I know you have a podcast. Have you ever considered making like a YouTube channel or putting what you know into like a book or some kind of, you know what I mean? Because I feel like people would really benefit from being able to consume your information in a, more direct way, because when I just find what you say very interesting, and I've had to kind of piece your ideology together. And a few months ago, I did like kind of like a deep dive into you and what you're doing, listened to the podcast, looked at the old forum posts, and I had to kind of just piece it together myself. Have you ever considered writing something so people can learn what you know?
What I will do will be very intimate, and it will be a speculative, romantic approach, and it will be a neurobiosocial system of relationship at long term as being an athlete at the same time. And it will be in French because that's where my sensuality and my tenderness is as is most precise. But I will do it on video, and I'm almost ready. I'm waiting to, like I say, to be such in a cohesive state that it's organized layers to layers. And even if I deal with people that are more rational or more, I need detail and stuff, it has this organization. Because the thing is, me, I'm so holistic. We'll talk about this, I'll talk about that, I'll talk about that. And the person is like, I cannot follow you anymore. I'm too confused. So I have to learn for moderation, flow, pace, make sure that I practice so much my speech, and the speech will be neurobiosocial, speculative, romantic for athlete in a couple. And that's what I would do, because, I was coaching one person, then I was coaching woman, master, young figure, CrossFit, arm wrestler, soldier, pregnant woman, pregnancy. It's always a learning curve. But as you add dynamic of organic, and when you had parent, lover, couple, competitive bodybuilding, and having a child at the same time while making money in a family matrix that are athlete, no one has done that kind of coaching that extrapolate those layers. And that's exactly where I'm at technically, because I have a girlfriend and a baby. But at the same time, no one has done that, and that's my professional calling.
That's very niche and very interesting.
It's very niche. There's no one, and no one will dare to try it because it's too complex anyways. I have no competition.
And once you have those ideas ironed out, if you would like to come back on, I would like to have you on the podcast to teach a little bit more in English. There's actually one more question that came up if you have a little bit of time. So I am somebody who is very rational and always been rational, because I come from a background where my family was very religious, and I saw all this dogmatic thinking that I wanted to get away from because I didn't want to make decisions based on false pretenses. Like, I'm very much against, homophobia, like just generally all the rigid rules that come with religion and how it can steer people in the wrong way to treat people incorrectly. So I feel like for a long time I haven't had any of that magic in my life. Any sort of like relation that I had with any sort of magical or metaphysical element, I shut down because I always viewed that as like God and only within a religious context, and that is always bad. And I should only take logical, rational approach. It's the only way to make decisions. But I feel that leaves, as I get older, I feel that leaves kind of an emptiness in life. Do you have any advice for people?
You are deconstructing your faith now is at the baseline of being completely secular. And now you're in the position that, yes, I'm secular and I push the religious transgenerational imprint I may had against my will impose on myself. I refined my quality as a man, as a gentleman, as an agent of wisdom. And now there's this maybe a little bit of curiosity of a calling for a humanistic spirituality, because somehow I cannot be God myself. I cannot be the center of the world. I cannot be the guru that leads. I need an externality. So what it will be, I don't know. But if it's not that, it could be too much narcissistic. It could be too much about you, which is fine. So you have to extrapolate a little curiosity of overlaps in spirituality, which kind of live and dwell within your own freedom. It's not something imposing. It's something you're discovering. So it's like an orientation of your curiosity. So you deconstruct faith. You had the time of an agnostic position, and now you're transition to, I might be open to an interpretative cosmology. And that's what you're building now. You're reinterpreting the philosophy of life in the applied time. And that's why I said I choose speculative romantic, because God could be maybe too esoteric. So I said I will be a speculative romantic, because if I use love as the agent that's bigger than myself, God could be the creator of love, but let's call it love. In the romantic procedure of my applied methodology to understand the romantic in me, I bound to attachment, I bound to respect, I bound to self-love, and whoever will vibrate within those realms will come to me, So I will say, yes, be secular, yes, be humanistic. You're very approached. You wrote to me. You were kind. You were cool. You were professional. You were precise. I clearly understood your insight, your professionalism. You're doing very well. Everything is master. Now you want to be a bigger version than that. And me acknowledge it. And I said, choose speculative romantic, but a romantic approach that doesn't make you lose yourself. You're still grounded into reality. You're still embodying your body. Yes, I trust and idealize and I idolatry somewhat love that's bigger than myself. But at the same time, do you want to be inspired by chaos and violence and murder? I mean, what's there to reach? There's enough chaos in the world right now. So yeah, it's a decision, right? And when you're smart like you and curious like you, it's very easy to go down the rabbit hole of darkness. So mine as well focus on the light right away. If it's metaphysical or not or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's more like I'm in tune to love and wisdom. Someone come into my life, and you know what? They feel bigger. They feel you feel like, wow, this person welcome, and I'm a bigger version of myself when I'm with him, and that's what you want. You don't want to destroy people health sanity. You want to be a positiveness of acknowledgement, and I will learn to embrace your qualities.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, and some kind words, and I very much appreciate that. And I agree with you. I think that, it is very easy to, when
especially now, especially with information, you can see how we're gonna die, or eschatological approach of we're living. There's no more fish, there's no more hair, there's no more money, there's no more cryptocurrency, there's none of this. Don't worry about it.
And in the, especially in the coronavirus world, it's very easy to.
Human always adapt. We're very smart.
Okay, Benoit. On that note, I want you to tell people where they can find you.
I'm on Facebook under my real name. I'm on Instagram under my real name. I have coaching, but the opening is next year. I'm already booked my entire year, but I have place for maybe 4 or 5 people from January 2022. I know it's far, but that's how it is. So I'm taking pre-reservation for then, and I usually cater to people that are either in a chaotic wild card or hyper organized or a conflict of both. And I often work more and more with couple, and I work often with soldiers, and more with arm wrestling or MMA or semi-professional, because I become in the bandwidth of so much data. I'm not the best, but I kind of cater in the elite frame of, but sometimes I end up with a couple that they're not competitive bodybuilder, but we have chemistry. They like me, I like them. I can learn from you, I can learn from them. So it's a learning bend curve. I'm not there for making money. I'm there to enjoy the process.
Awesome. And you have an Instagram also.
Instagram is under my name too.
And a podcast, right? Yeah. I'm trying to help you promote yourself here.
Yeah.
Podcast is Love and Steroids.
Yeah, it's been a long time we didn't do it. It's more of a bro logic. It's more like, like old school, bit, slash and fun and stuff. But I'm gonna reinvent it in a more philosophical approach very soon. I don't know if I'm gonna still talk about bodybuilding, but it would be very metaphysical, for sure.
All right, guys, that's episode 23. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Peace.
Peace, bro.